So here you are, watching a video of me on Facebook. Not exactly what I had planned for today. How about you? How many of you thought a few short weeks ago that you'd be doing what you're doing right now, today, this week? How about this month? Anyone? So what are you going to do today? What are you going to do this week, this month? Less than a month ago, I think the plans for the vast majority of us included watching the end of the NHL season, praying that the Blues could defend last year's championship to the end, and bring home Lord Stanley's Cup in back-to-back seasons. Maybe spend countless hours between us watching the Cardinals begin another storied season of baseball. And let's not forget this possible national championship by none other than Pastor Bond's very own Jayhawks. For many of us, senior year graduations, end-of-the-year award banquets, and even weddings were on the calendar. But that's all changed, really, on March 11. And that's the day that the NBA canceled its season, followed by the NHL, then spring training. The dominoes really started to fall after that. Everything I just mentioned has indefinitely been put on hold. And we are all effectively quarantined to our house as a family, forced even to spend every waking moment with none other than the ones we love. At least I hope that's true. The reality is, we still don't know if there's going to be a Major League Baseball this year, let alone the NHL playoffs. Well, at least the Blues will still be champions for another year, right? But how is this all affecting you? I mean, are you one that can sit there and just take your lumps? You roll with the punches and say, I can only control what I can control? Or is panic setting in? Fear, cabin fever, regret, and maybe resentment that there are milestones you will never get to experience, at least not the way that you've always imagined that they'd happen. And I want to share something. I believe God has been preparing my family for this season, believe it or not, over the last 6 months or so, or really, probably the last 20 plus years, if I'm honest. And I believe He's been doing the same for you. You only need to be ready to listen and hear what He is saying. So let me explain. I'd say about 6 months ago, Marla found a 12-day reading plan in the Bible app by Francis Chan. He covered the entire book of James in 12 days. We started going through 1, maybe 2 days each week as a family. And then probably in early February, we hit day 9, which covered chapter 4, verses 13 to 17. So let me read. I'm going to read 13 to 16. Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we're going to go to such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you don't know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. And as it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. Does that sound familiar? Well, for instance, we have gone to the National Homeschool Basketball Tournament for the last few years. The moment, and I mean the very second that tournament is over, don't you know, everyone's already talking about and planning for next year. Well, guess what? According to James, that was pretty arrogant of us. But I like how Francis Chan put it. He said this, the thing is, we look at sentences like this in the Word and we go, well, that doesn't sound arrogant at all. I mean, if someone in your small group says, I want to move to Chicago, I just want to live there a year and go get a job and internship there, you wouldn't think to yourself, oh, that's so arrogant, right? But you can't do just that. What James says is instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. So, do you see? This isn't about us making plans. This is about us not considering and including God's will in our everyday plans. So, let me just back up, and I'm going to ask again. What are you going to do today, this week, and how about this month? What would God have you do with this time that, well, He gave you? I challenge you to find out. I challenge you to dig deep into God's Word, to hear what He is speaking to you. And as Pastor Mike spoke about on Sunday from 1 Thessalonians 2:4, not to please man, but to please God, who tests our hearts. So let me just end here in Psalm 121, 1, 2, and 3. I lift my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. So I pray that God moves in all of us, and that later on we're going to have some pretty wonderful stories to tell about how God changed our lives for good.